When the shuttle dropped me on the edge of Kethri Plain, it didn't bother waiting to see if I survived the landing. That should have been my first clue. The pilot, a four-armed Glishan with mirrored eyes and a voice like grinding gravel, had looked at me the way you look at someone who's just volunteered to clean a reactor core with a toothbrush. Then the ramp lowered, the wind screamed in, and before I could ask a single intelligent question, my contract chip chimed and the shuttle lifted off again. I stood there, boots sinking into violet dust, watching it vanish into a copper-colored sky. Great, I muttered. Remote alien village. One human. No return ride. The job posting had been vague in that special way only interstellar agencies could manage. Temporary human labor required. Low risk. Cultural compatibility a plus. Housing provided. Pay generous. No job title. No detailed description. Just coordinates and a deadline. That should have been my second clue. I'd taken it anyway because credits were credits, and my last contract on a mining station had ended with a depressurization incident and a very awkward tribunal hearing. I wanted something quiet, something boring, something that didn't involve alarms. The village appeared over a low ridge, built from pale stone, and a kind of living crystal that pulsed faintly in the sunlight. Rounded structures clustered together like shells around a central tower. Thin, ribbon-like banners fluttered between spires, chiming softly in the wind. It was beautiful and completely alien. They were already waiting for me. About a dozen of them stood at the edge of the village, tall and willowy, with skin that shifted in soft gradients of blue and silver. Their eyes were dark and wide, their faces smooth, their movements slow and careful, like they were afraid of startling the air itself. Kethri, according to my briefing. One stepped forward, taller than the rest. Older, maybe there were faint lines around the eyes, and the color of their skin was more muted. "You are the human," the translator in my ear said in a calm, neutral tone. "Last I checked," I replied. "You must be my employer." "We are the village of Sarakai," the Kethri said. "I am Lethrin, speaker for the circle. You have come to work." "Apparently," I said, glancing around. "So, what am I doing?" There was a brief pause. The Kethri exchanged looks. Their skin rippled slightly, like disturbed water. "You will be a keeper," Lethrin said slowly, as if testing the word. "A keeper of what?" I asked. Another pause. "Of us." That was my third clue. They led me into the village, past structures that hummed softly and pathways that adjusted their shape underfoot. Everything felt alive, or at least aware. The air smelled faintly sweet, with an undercurrent of something metallic. They gave me a small dwelling near the central tower. Inside, there was a bed molded from crystal, a table grown from the floor itself, and a single window that looked out over the plain. "Your needs have been accounted for," Lethrin said. "Nutrition. Rest. Privacy." "Good," I said. "Now about the job. What does keeper actually mean?" "You will see," Lethrin replied. That became a theme. The first few days were strange but not unpleasant. They didn't ask me to do much at first. I walked with them, sat in their gatherings, ate strange but surprisingly good food that tasted like spiced citrus and warm stone. They watched me constantly, not in a creepy way, exactly, but with intense curiosity. Children, smaller, brighter-colored Kethri, would follow me around, whispering and giggling in their chiming language. When I waved, they'd freeze, then ripple with color and scatter like birds. Eventually, Lethrin brought me to the central tower. Inside, the air was cooler. The walls glowed softly, and in the center of the chamber stood a massive crystalline structure, like a tree made of light. It pulsed slowly, rhythmically. "This is the heart," Lethrin said. It's pretty, I said. It is our anchor, our memory, our bond. Okay, I said carefully. And my job is what? Guard it? Clean it? Talk to it. You will be here when we cannot be, Lethrin said. That didn't clear anything up. The truth started to reveal itself in pieces. One evening, as the copper sky darkened into deep violet, I sat with Lethrin near the heart. The village was quiet, the air filled with soft chiming from the crystal structures. Why a human? I asked. No offense, but there are a lot of species in the galaxy. Some of them are probably better suited to whatever this is. Lethrin's skin shifted, a slow wave of darker blue. We have tried others, they said. They do not endure. Endure what? The waiting. That was when I started to get nervous. Over the next few weeks, I noticed things. The Ketheri didn't sleep the way I did. They entered long, meditative states near the heart, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. When they emerged, they looked dimmer, just slightly, like a light turned down a fraction. They also aged faster than I expected. Not in years, in cycles. Every time a group returned from one of these long vigils, their movements were slower, their colors less vibrant. One day, I asked one of the younger ones, Tyrion, I think their name was, how old they were. 203 cycles, the translator said. And how long do Ketheri usually live? I asked. Tyrion's colors flickered. 300, if the heart is kind. That was clue number 4. Lethrin finally told me the whole story when I confronted them. The heart wasn't just a monument. It was a machine. An ancient one. Older than the village. Older than the Ketheri themselves, maybe. It maintained something. Not the village. Not the planet. A boundary. There is a region beneath this world, Lethrin said, their voice softer than usual. A fracture in reality. Long ago, our ancestors discovered it. They built the heart to hold it closed. And if it opens? I asked. Then what is below will come up, Lethrin said simply. And that's bad, I guessed. Catastrophic, the translator said. The heart needed constant attention. Constant presence. The Ketheri linked their minds to it, stabilized its patterns, fed it energy in a way no machine could do alone. But it cost them. Every vigil shaved years off their lives. Every cycle, fewer of them could take part. So you hired me, I said slowly. To what? Replace you? Not replace, Lethrin said. Share the burden. I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. I'm human. I don't have psychic crystal brain powers or whatever it is you do. No, Lethrin agreed. But you have something else. They studied me with those dark, reflective eyes. You endure time differently. Your minds are loud, resistant. You are not as easily consumed by the heart. That was flattering and terrifying. The first time I tried to interface with the heart, I thought it was going to kill me. They showed me how to sit, how to place my hands against the warm crystal surface, how to breathe in rhythm with its pulse. At first, nothing happened. Then the world stretched. It felt like my thoughts were being pulled into long, thin threads. I saw patterns that didn't make sense, colors that didn't exist. I felt pressure, not on my body, but on my sense of self. I pulled away, gasping. Lethrin steadied me. You are not harmed, they said. Only touched. Next time, maybe warn me before your ancient alien machine tries to eat my soul, I said weakly. They made a sound that the translator rendered as amusement. We took it slow after that, minutes at a time, then longer. I learned how to anchor myself, thinking about Earth, about rain on concrete, about stupid old movies and half-forgotten songs. The heart responded to that, strangely enough. Its pulse would steady when my mind did. "You bring structure," Lethrin said once. "Different from ours. Useful." Over months, I became part of their rotation. Not replacing anyone, just standing with them. When they entered their long vigils, I was there too. When they emerged, a little dimmer, I was still me. Tired, headachy, but intact. That was when I realized the real job wasn't keeper. It was buffer. I was taking some of the strain, some of the cost, and slowly, quietly, that was saving their lives. I grew close to them in ways I hadn't expected. Tyrion liked to sit with me and ask about Earth, about oceans, about animals. They were fascinated by the idea of creatures that lived entirely in water. Lethrin would walk with me at dusk, discussing things like memory and duty, and whether a species could outgrow the purpose it was born into. "You could leave," they said once. "Your contract will end. You will have earned more than enough credits." "Yeah," I said. "I could. But you have not asked about transport," Lethrin observed. "No," I admitted. The crisis came without drama. No alarms. No explosions. Just a wrongness in the air. The heart's pulse faltered. Just a fraction. Every Ketheri in the village felt it. Their colors shifted in alarm. The air grew colder, sharper. "What's happening?" I asked. "The boundary is weakening," Lethrin said. "Faster than before." They gathered everyone who could still take part. Fewer than last cycle. I took my place among them. This time, when we linked with the heart, it was different. The pressure was immense. The patterns were jagged, unstable. I felt something pushing back. Not the machine. Something else. I don't have words for what I sensed down there. Not a monster. Not a mind. More like hunger given shape. The Ketheri were straining. I could feel their presence flickering, their mental voices thinning. So I did the only thing I could think of. I leaned into myself. Into everything human. Noise. Memories. Stubbornness. Fear. Hope. The stupid, beautiful chaos of a species that refused to stay quiet in the dark. I anchored. I pushed. The heart's pulse steadied, then strengthened. The pressure eased. When it was over, I collapsed to the floor, shaking. The Ketheri were alive. Exhausted. Dim, but alive. Lethrin knelt beside me, their skin shimmering with something like awe. "You held it," they said. "Longer than any of us could have alone." "Yeah," I said weakly. "Team effort." After that, everything changed. Not overnight, but the trend was clear. With me there, and later with 2 more humans the Ketheri carefully recruited, the burden spread wider. The cycles grew less costly. The village stopped shrinking. For the first time in generations, Ketheri children grew up not assuming they'd have to give half their lives to the heart. And me? My contract ended. The shuttle came back. Lethrin walked with me to the edge of the village, the same place I'd arrived. "You can stay," they said, "or you can go. Either way, you will always be part of our circle." I looked back at the village, at the glowing towers, at the people who had quietly trusted a stranger with the weight of their world. "I think," I said, "I'll take a short break. Then I'll be back. Someone's got to make sure your ancient reality sealing machine doesn't get cranky." Lethrin's colors brightened in a way I'd learned meant something very close to a smile. "Then we will prepare your place," they said. As the shuttle lifted off, I realized something. I hadn't been hired to do a job. I'd been hired to share a future. And, honestly, that was the best contract I'd ever signed. The heart did not fail all at once. That was the most terrifying part. It failed the way a tired person does, quietly, in small mistakes. A skipped pulse. A pattern that didn't quite close. A vibration that lingered too long in the air, like a note played off-key. I noticed it before anyone else did. Not because I was special. Not because I was smarter. Because I was different. Where the Cathari felt the heart like a part of themselves, I felt it like pressure against my skull, like standing too close to heavy machinery that wasn't running smoothly anymore. One morning, I woke up with blood in my nose and a headache that felt like someone had tried to fold my thoughts in half. When I stepped outside, the village looked the same, but it felt wrong. The crystal structures chimed out of sync. The air was too still, too sharp. Leathern was already waiting for me near the central tower.
"You felt it," they said.
It wasn't a question. "Yeah," I said, wiping my face. "Something's off. And it's not subtle." Inside the heart chamber, the light was dimmer. Not by much, but enough that I noticed. "The boundary is degrading faster," Leathern said. Our projections were optimistic. "That's one way to put it," I muttered. They had gathered everyone who could still participate in the vigil. It wasn't many.
Some were too old now, some too weak.
Some already lost to previous cycles. The village had survived, but only just. And now the heart was asking for more. When we linked this time, the resistance was immediate. The pressure hit like a wave. Not physical, something deeper. Like gravity aimed at my thoughts. I felt the Cathari minds around me, bright but strained, like candles in a storm. And beneath it all, something moved. Not in space. In possibility. I don't know how else to describe it. It wasn't a creature with teeth and claws. It was a wrongness. A hunger that didn't want to eat bodies. It wanted to erase boundaries. To make inside and outside meaningless. The heart shuddered. One of the Cathari cried out and broke contact, collapsing to the floor. Another followed. Then another. Their lights were going out. "Leathern," I shouted, though I don't know if sound even mattered in that place. "I am here," their presence replied, but it was faint.
Thin.
If we lost cohesion, the heart would fail. If the heart failed, whatever was below would not come up violently. It would come up inevitably. I realized, in that stretched, painful moment, what my real role had always been. Not a keeper. Not a guardian. A keystone. Something ugly and stubborn and hard to remove once wedged into place. So, I did the most human thing I could. I refused to let go. I stopped trying to be calm. Stopped trying to be elegant. I flooded the link with me. With noise and memory and anger and laughter and half-remembered songs and dumb arguments and the smell of rain on hot pavement and the ache of losing people and the fury of still standing afterward. I made myself loud. The pressure screamed back. For a moment, I thought my mind was going to tear. Then the heart answered. Not with power. With structure. The chaos I brought gave it something to lock onto. Something irregular. Something unbreakable in its own messy way. The pulse stabilized. The boundary held. When I came back to myself, I was on the floor again, staring at the glowing ceiling, every muscle shaking like I'd run a marathon inside my own head. The Cathari were alive. All of them who had linked were alive. Dim, exhausted, but alive. Leathern knelt beside me, their colors slowly brightening again. You have changed the pattern, they said. The heart no longer feeds only on us. Good, I croaked, because I'm not doing that solo again. They made that soft, chiming sound I'd learned was laughter. The real change came in the months that followed. Word spread.
Carefully, quietly.
2 more humans arrived. Then 3. Then a small rotation, volunteers, specialists, people who understood what they were signing up for. The heart adapted. So did the Cathari. The cycles grew shorter, less costly. The village began to grow again instead of shrink. Children were born who were not immediately destined to burn half their lives holding back the dark. One evening, long after my original contract had ended, Levrin walked with me to the edge of the village. The same place I'd first been dropped off and silently judged by gravity and violet dust. "You could leave," they said again. "Your people have taken your place in the rotation. The burden is no longer yours alone." "Yeah," I said. "I know, but you remain," Lethrin observed. I looked back at the glowing towers, at the heart's steady light, at a future that, for once, didn't feel like it was running out of time. "I guess," I said, "some jobs stop being jobs." Lethrin's colors shifted into that warm, bright pattern I knew so well now. "Then you are not our keeper," they said. "You are our kin." I smiled at that, because I hadn't come here to save a village. I'd come here to share the weight of a world. And for the first time in a long time, that felt exactly like where I belonged.